Please welcome Provost Crystal Williams.
You folks look good in that red. I'm really honored to be here among you and to have been asked by Dean Moore to make remarks on this, the occasion of your graduation from Boston University. I want to first take this moment to acknowledge what you have accomplished by completing this phase of your lives. And what you've achieved is, and I mean this in the most literal sense of the word, awesome. Which is awe-inspiring. For if you think contextually and globally, you are among a small percentage of people in the world that have been able to go to college. A smaller group of people who have graduated from college, and an even smaller cadre who have determined that their life's work will be dedicated to researching, treating, and making better the lives of other humans. In my estimation, that dedication to the human endeavor, to lovingness, to compassion, to entering into fields in which care for others is of principal concern is awe-inspiring. Thank you. We're gonna see if I can get through this without crying. It may not be possible, but I'm gonna try. And can we also acknowledge your family, friends, support networks, your faculty and college leaders who in myriad ways helped guide, support, nourish, and love you. Can we give them a round of significant applause? So as someone who, like you, aspires to make a life defined by my service to others, I thought I might take this opportunity to share a few of the principles I wish I had known when I was just blazing out into the big wide world, as are you. The most important of these is what I think of as my meta principle, the Optimus Prime of my guiding principles. And that is the vital importance of developing habitual practices in a purposeful and intentional way regarding those things that are important to me. So today I want to talk to you about 4 of those: diversity, openness, energy, and love. Diversity. When I look out at you from this podium, I see the full spectrum of human identity. Among you are people who are first in their families to have graduated with a 4-year degree. Where are you? Yeah, that's amazing. Among you are people who are first in their families to obtain a graduate degree. That too is amazing. There are people among you who are non-traditional students, who identify as belonging to the LGBTQIA communities. There are people who live with mental health challenges, with physical differences and disabilities, people who have intellectual and learning differences, people who are parents, people who are primary caregivers, Muslims, Christians, atheists, agnostics, Black, white, Asian, Native American, you name it, it's here among you. You are beautiful. A dynamic reflection of the social, cultural, economic, geographic, national, religious, political, and philosophical diversity that has expanded our world and caused such explosive and exciting social change. It was just in 2015, if we might remember, that same-sex marriage was recognized in all 50 states in the United States of America. 3 years ago. There are now more people in college with learning differences than at any other time in our history. The Americans with Disabilities Act became law less than 30 years ago. And in 23 years, just 23 years from now, the United States of America will be comprised of more people of color than white people. It's amazing. We are increasingly interconnected and interdependent as a world. What happens in Syria informs what happens in our social and political landscapes across the globe. Hashtag Save Our Girls in Nigeria, hashtag Black Lives Matter in Paris. So it makes sense that we, at least here in the US, talk a lot about the value of diversity and inclusion. We see it, it's palpable, we're living it. But the values of diversity and inclusivity are also predicated upon one of America's central defining myths, that of the melting pot. But in truth, we're not always that good at melting, are we? And is that because most of us don't want to live in an equitable, diverse, and truly inclusive environment? Call me a Pollyanna, but I don't think so. I think most of us aren't very good at embodying the habits of mind and action that would ensure that we actually create diverse, equitable, and inclusive environments where we live, work, and in our communities, because we don't know how to do that. And the truth is, no one among us is born a diversity prodigy or an inclusion wunderkind. Not you, not me. We are born squawking and hungry. Most everything else we learn. And most of us haven't committed to learning how to create and sustain diverse, equitable, and inclusive environments. It's as simple as that. And when I was an undergraduate and later a graduate student, I didn't know how to do this work either. But I've since learned, in part because I fundamentally believe that our differences in the aggregate are our collective source of intelligence and wisdom. And because also I've experienced my share of exclusionary practices. And at some point, I did a little self-reflecting and I thought, basta, enough, Crystal. You can either be a passive participant in an inequitable and unjust world and fuss about it from your sofa, or you can activate and try to figure out how to make your patch a little better. And what I've learned since then is this: to effectively engage the diversity of your fellow humans takes practice. And it is a practice, and it is hard work. It requires the willingness to be wrong, to listen deeply and with as little defensiveness as is possible. It requires the ability to apologize and, importantly, change or shift your behavior. It requires the habit of broadening one's thinking through education, formal and informal. However, the most essential skill to develop, in my view, is what some call having a growth mindset. Developing the belief that if you don't know how to get it done now, you can learn how to get it done. Fostering a growth mindset has allowed me to grow adept at asking 3 questions in service of making a more diverse, equitable, and just space. They are, what don't I know? What more can I learn? And then, how can I employ that knowledge on behalf of fostering a more diverse, inclusive, and equitable world? Graduates, the decision is yours. You can begin at any time to build your intentional practices regarding diversity of experience among us. The occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech pathologists, learning specialists, nutritionists, future physicians, and researchers who develop a set of regular and expansive skills and practices regarding diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, I believe, will be the people who will eschew outdated 20th century practices. They will be the people in the future who develop innovative interventions, who design forward-thinking, socially and culturally appropriate programs and treatment models, who in clinical practice will understand and begin to identify additional ways that our identities, this grand project of diversity, can inform treatment methodologies and outcomes. Those are the people who will be at the forefront, prepared for the 21st century, leading our way into the 22nd. Be one of them. The second thing, openness. So years ago, I was at a friend's wedding, and I met this beautiful little girl named Maya, who I think was about 1.5 or so. I don't really know children that well. She wasn't speaking yet, so I don't know if that's 1 or 2, but she was little. And so when she met me, she threw open her arms as if to say, "Hello, I love you," which I took personally until I realized that Maya did this to everybody and everything. She threw open her arms to the lake, to the birds. There was a little rat-tailed squirrel that was running around. She threw her arms open to that. And it was her fundamental life's position, openness. Most of us, I think, exist somewhere in the middle of what I call the Maya spectrum. Yes, yes on one side, no on the other. And because there are few Mayas among us, sort of these pure yes people, becoming a yes person requires of the rest of us intentionality and practice, particularly if you are introverted and are a person for whom being around others is draining. And also for those of us who are in fields that call us to care for the health and welfare of others all day, every day. Yesing anything but the sofa at the end of the night can seem like being asked to climb Mount Everest. Believe me, I get it. And you needn't yes everything, but yes more than you do now. Develop the practice and the habit. Try new social experiences and invitations. Undertake new adventures. Raise your hand for work projects that may not be in your wheelhouse, but that seem interesting and to which you can apply your growth mindset. Getting a little closer to Maya on the spectrum means that when you are my age, you'll likely have fewer regrets trailing behind you like blue moons, and you'll know more about your world, yourself, than if you had kept a mouthful of no. Energy. So caring for others is, as we know, rigorous, hard, and important work. Sometimes the work we undertake is of such import, helping a recent amputee learn to walk with a prosthesis, helping a child work through their speech impediment, that we forget energy, physical energy, emotional energy, intellectual energy. Energy is an exhaustible resource. The body, the soul, the brain need fuel. Years ago, I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and late in the day, I got a little mean-eyed and salty with him. And so he cocked his head and asked, "Are you hangry? Do you need a burger?" Well, I was hangry. We'd been going all day long, and we'd been having a good time that I hadn't been paying attention to the fact that I was depleting my fuel. Don't be hangry, graduates. Know when you need nourishment. Know what and who nourishes you. And understand that there is a difference between people who you nourish, which is an outward motion, and the people who nourish you, which is an inward motion. Fill your life with people who nourish you and hold them close. Do that purposefully and with great intention. Which brings me to my final point, love. Not only should you be with people who nourish you, but you should endeavor to undertake activities, jobs, positions, opportunities that also nourish you. Years ago, I met an artist named Bill Burns. At that time, he was making safety gear for small animals, so like construction hats for gerbils and safety vests for mice and work boots for badgers, like that. And so as it turns out, his work is in many collections of many museums across the globe, which is a hard thing to achieve. And I asked him how he'd come to be so successful. And he shrugged and said, "Meh, I go where the love is." So here's what I want you to know, graduates. Everything doesn't have to be uphill. Life is tough enough. Some doors open to us relatively easily. Others remain closed, and we can bang and pound and gnash our teeth, and they are going to remain closed. In the end, I see no virtue in standing at an unfriendly door. I don't like swimming in cold water. Get into the warm water. Get into your own slipstream. Make part of your personal and professional practice going where the love is. So that's it. That's what I know now that I wish I had known when I was sitting where you are. Be intentional. Be strategically intentional. Understand yourself to be creating a series of habits and practices that will inform your outcomes. Learn and continue to learn. Follow Maya's lead. Have a mouthful of yes. Sit among diversely cast people and laugh with and be in community with them. Find people who nourish you and call them your beloveds. Stand at friendly doors, and as often and for as long as you can, dwell in love. Dwell in love. Congratulations.